Morning everybody, welcome to Visible Live Season 5, episode number 4. Oh, that would be number 8. That would be episode number 4. My name is Nicola Morass, in case we haven't met before, and I'm really absolutely excited to share with you this particular episode. Now, hands up, whether you're watching the replay or you're watching live, hands up if you have ever felt like you don't know enough yet. Hands up if you've ever felt or experienced imposter syndrome. I know I have. And another big thing is that people will often say, look, you've just got to get out there, fake it till you make it. Now, if you're someone who kind of feels a little bit out of integrity with that, then this episode is going to be super, super helpful. I remember when I first started out in business, I was certainly, internally, I knew that I could help people with what I wanted to help them with and everything like that. But I didn't have the confidence to really kind of fully own that. I wish that I had a way, a method, a tool for being able to see, well, you know what, this is what I can leverage. This is the stuff that's really amazing. This is the stuff that is really going to support me in terms of how we go forward. Now, as you're joining, please say hi. Let me know that you can hear me. First of all, that would be really excellent. And secondly, just, it's really nice to have some audience participation. So what I wanted to talk with you, oh, my notes just fell off. What I really wanted to talk with you about today is something that is in my latest book, Visible. I'm not going to do the mirroring thing today because the phone's a little bit far away. So in here, I talk about the different ways of you being able to unpack your knowledge. You being able to unpack and identify and articulate, I guess, your strengths, your natural gifts and talents. Now, some of these are going to be acknowledged. Some you will just know. Like, for example, I know that I can talk underwater with a mouthful of marbles for, until the end of time. Other things are often unacknowledged. And these are the things that are often coming out of kind of left field with the things that other people see within us that we just don't even realize are even there. Good morning. Thanks for joining. So we're going to break this down into 4 segments. So in the book, there is a picture. If you own the book, we're on page number 73. And we're going to take a look, first of all, at your life experience. So this is something that whether you are 60 or whether you're 16 or whether you're 26 or 35, 43, doesn't even matter. You have got all of this life experience. So one of the things that you can do, and actually I would encourage you to do, is to, first of all, before we go into trying to unpack your knowledge and your modalities and your certifications and everything else like that, let us take a look first and foremost at the stuff that is probably the simplest thing to do. So life experience doesn't just happen, right? It is something that you go through, you experience, you fail, you succeed, you get back up. That's why you're still alive, all of this kind of thing. So one of the things that I would suggest that you do is to go back to, and I would do this in blocks because I think that makes it easier. Look back throughout your life, maybe starting at the age of 20, go to the age of 25 and map out what were you doing. What were you doing back through there? What were the pivotal moments between 20 and 25 for you? And then go to 25 and 30. So we're going to do it through it as a timeline. What were the big things that happened between 25 and 30 years of age? Who were your friends? What were you doing? Were you going out clubbing? Maybe that's just me, not between 25 and 30. That was certainly between 20 and 25. Were you going out clubbing? Were you going away? Were you traveling the world? Were you working in bars? Were you nannying? Were you helping out in orphanages in Bali? What were you doing between those age brackets? And then what about between 30 and 35? And then 35 and 40, and then 40 and 45, and so on and so forth until you kind of hit your age bracket. Now, to me, what this does is it really highlights, I mean, number one, we do a lot in a 5-year block, right? If I look at the last 5 years of my life, oh my goodness, so many things have happened. There have been so many learnings. There has been so much stuff. So it really helps you to see the evolution of you without you trying to come at it from a place of ego, without you trying to come at it from a place of contriving or creating stuff. Okay, so that's the first thing. So an example of this, I'm going to talk about it in Visible. Margaret, who's in her 60s, you can see that there have been a lot of amazing life experiences throughout her life. You know, you would imagine that. There's been some great experiences. There have been some negative experiences. So make a note of all of those things for you. Thelma, on the other hand, is someone in her 30s, and yet she's had so much experience throughout her time and throughout her life that she's been able to build up. You know, she experienced bullying and having learning differences and going into a job and going into uni and then leaving and then getting another degree and, you know, so on and so forth, you know, experiencing all of this stuff. So your age doesn't matter. It's about really understanding and mapping out what you have done in those different age segments, in that timeline. Okay, so that would be in the quadrant, the life experience one. You can just read backwards because I'm not mirroring this today. The second thing that I really want you to actually work through is your education/career timeline. Now, if you're anything like a client of mine, Kate, she has got a million modalities. She's got a billion certifications. She's got all of the things, knows all of the stuff, is freaking brilliant. And yet she still suffers from time to time with imposter syndrome. With who am I? Do I know enough? Do I need to learn more? Do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? When what you're going to take a look at, whether you left school in year 11, whether you went through and you've got a PhD, whether you're a literal rocket scientist like a friend of mine, then sometimes it doesn't matter how much experience and knowledge you've got, you can still suffer this whole imposter syndrome complex. So what I want you to do is, again, we're going to timeline it and bring it back. Good morning, Joe. Bring that back, right back to perhaps when did you finish school? And then what was your first job? What were you doing within that job? What did you love about it? What did you learn as part of it? I started working in a sports store when I was 16 and I loved it. It was a whole heap of fun. I learned how to really sell in that environment. We were selling sports shoes and things like that. I learned how to provide exceptional customer service. I learned actually in the interview before I got that job, the importance of really being me in any job interview. So how that interview went was really funny. The gentleman who was running the interview was a gentleman called Gary, and we sat down in the food court opposite the sports store, and he was asking me the normal interview questions, you know, what do you do for fun? How much of experience have you got? You know, and then the final question he asked me, he said, well, are there any other questions that you'd like to ask? And I said, no, I think I'm okay. He said, how many other people have applied? And he answered, and I said, oh, well, you know, I hope they're not as good as me. You know, I'm really excited to work with you. And he said, oh, you're a bitch. I said, well, you know, and if the shoe fits, you know, and I laughed and went off, but it was really at the end, I was 16, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I was super nervous, and that joke could have landed flat, right? But what it did, it actually paid off for me, and the environment was always fun, playful, jovial. The staff members that I worked with were amazing. So what I learned from the age of 16, working in that environment, was the power of being you, how to sell, how to have fun at work, and how to really engage and be you, I guess. How to have fun with the customers as well, and how to tie a mean shoelace whilst fitting sand shoes. So that was really great. So, you know, what was your first job and what did you learn? And then what was the next job? And then what was the next job? Or what was the timeline of your education and your career? For me, I worked at Westpac for 12 years. I learned so much through there before branching out into my own business. So again, a lot of people think, wow, you know what, I haven't done all of this education in the modality or in the thing that I really want to be working in or build up around. But what you're forgetting, good morning, Kylie, what you might be forgetting, hey, Tamara, is how much other experience you have had in perhaps a different industry. And you might not immediately see the parallels, but when you start to play with it and unpack it, you will start to see, I promise you will start to see the kind of like the trail of breadcrumbs that come through. So it's really important that you unpack that career, make a note of it. And again, I'd maybe look at those 5-year time blocks. The next thing is a cool one. So the next quadrant that we're looking at down over here in the book on page 73, for those of you who are playing along at home, is the natural gifts and talents section. So this one is usually one of the easiest to kind of unpack and play around with. You've got many natural gifts and talents. It could be, as I said, the speaking underwater with a mouthful of marbles till the end of time. It might be your ability to really help connect and engage with people in a room. It might be the way that you can lighten up any conflict. It might be the way that you just help everybody to really feel heard. It might be your passion for making sure that numbers and systems are implemented correctly. Kylie, it's about getting the right person into the right job, right? So that type of thing. Your natural gifts and talents are usually pretty easy to map out. One of the things that I would strongly recommend that you do, though, is think right back to perhaps when you were a child and you were thinking about what it was that you wanted to do, what you wanted to be, who you wanted to be as you when you grew up. You know, what did you want to do? So for me, and I talk about it in here, for me it was always about performing. It was always about entertaining, helping people to have fun and have a really great time. And so the way that I do that, what I do now is almost exactly like what I was doing as a kid. It doesn't look like it did in my imagination as a child, but it's still, the feeling is really similar. It's really the same. So what I'd encourage you to do is to go right back and take a look at, well, what did I want to do and be, and who did I want to be when I grew up, and see if there's any like little linkages in there that you can draw upon. So I think that's really important. Another thing, if you're getting a little bit stuck with this, and even though I think it's one of the easiest ones because the clues are all there, right, in terms of your natural gifts and talents, is to ask yourself, well, what is it that I get asked for help with all the time? I find this really interesting. What is the feedback that you get from people all the time? I had some clients here on the weekend, and one of the things that they shared with me, which I thought was really kind of funny, I didn't even ask them to do this, is that, oh, Nicola, you're very nurturing. And I don't feel like a nurturer. To me, a nurturer is like, Tamara, you're a bit like a nurturer to me. Thanks for being on here this morning. It's like that mama bear that, or like bringing your kids under your wing and really looking after people, kind of like warm and fuzzy, touchy-feely kind of nurturer. That's what I conjure up in my head, and I'm like, oh gosh, that's not me. So sometimes, and this leads into the next quadrant, is if people are telling you different things, and if you are being asked for particular things, then sometimes that is another clue with your natural gifts and talents segment that you can unpack. The next thing to unpack is your innate abilities, and these are the things that are really often unacknowledged. So there are two parts. Number one, I want you to think about, good morning, Hayley. Happy Tuesday. Really awesome to see you, Cloud Girl, doing all of the awesome things. So the first one is, what do you think your innate abilities are, right? What do you think your innate abilities? I mean, I think I'm pretty funny. Not everybody thinks I'm funny, but I think that I'm pretty funny a lot of the time. Not all of the time, but a lot of the time. So go and sit down and go, okay, well, what is it that I think that are really easy or we kind of take for granted? For example, is the cup always half full? Are you always looking for the learning in your failures? Are you incredibly determined? So I had a roller derby training on Sunday, and we were doing this drill. I kept getting it wrong. I was getting really frustrated and angry with myself. And finally, bang, it just my body just decided after drilling it multiple times, it just fell into place and worked. And one of the girls said at the end, they said, "You're just like a pit bull, you are relentless." And I'm like, oh, you know what? I think I kind of am. Isn't that really interesting? So sometimes these things that we just don't even see, and that's why it's unacknowledged. We've often got these traits and characteristics and skill sets within us that we just take for granted, that we don't acknowledge. So it's really important that we do that. The second part of this fourth segment is to get really brave and to get really incredibly curious. Tamara, a nurturing pitbull. Yeah, apparently. Really funny. So part 2, you're going to get brave. Now here's what I want you to do. I want you, and I'm going to read this out of the book, I want you to go to social media and post something along the lines of this. Can you help me out, please? ? I've been set a challenge to post this and I am a little nervous. Can you please share one word with me that you feel describes me and the impact that I have on you, or what you see as being my biggest strength? Positive words only, please. Thanks in advance. So go and put that out there on social media. And I can guarantee you, and in fact I promise you, that you will be blown away with the words that people use to describe you. And this really provides, I guess, a really, really big spotlight onto these things that you just kind of take for granted, that you just don't even see. It can feel really scary, Tamara, absolutely. But I promise you, it is one of the really, that's not very good English, Nicola. It is one of the most insightful and valuable pieces of feedback that you can request from people who are connected to you. Because often, we are so well conditioned to look for the negatives, to look for the things and then downplay. It's like, oh yeah, I do that, but, or oh yeah, I know I'm a great listener, but, blah, blah, blah. Or yeah, I can be really motivating, but on the inside, I feel like shit. Whatever it might be, okay? Once you have completed those activities, so just to reiterate, we've got the first one is mapping out your life experience in 5-year segments. Maybe from the age of 15 to 20, 20 to 25, 25 to 30. The next activity you're going to look at is your education/career specifically, right? So life mapping and career mapping are two different things. Your life experience is about your life, excluding career and education. And then your career and education mapping is different. And then you're going to take a look at your natural gifts and talents, the acknowledged ones that you just kind of know are natural and really easy. And you might look to where you were as a child and what your thinking was and what your dreams were for when you grew up. And then you're going to get into the unacknowledged, and then you're going to ask people to help you out with that. Now, I'm going to read out a little bit about Sandy. So Sandy, a musician and coaching client of mine, did these activities that I've suggested that you do above, and particularly this one where she asked for feedback, where she asked for help. She said she was so surprised at the responses that she received from people and what they saw in her. There are qualities and traits that other people see in us all the time. So the one for Sandy that really stood out was that she was driven and determined, because she didn't see herself that way. She's like, I don't see myself as being driven and determined. Yet upon working through the context that this person had provided those insights for her, it really helped her to see a different perspective. So I think it's really interesting. Now, the really great thing about this is that there is not one other person who is going to have your life map. Not one other person is going to have your career and education map. Not one other person on this planet are going to have your acknowledged innate abilities or your gifts and talents, and not one other person is going to have the same innate gifts and talents as you. When you combine all of those, you start to see a really robust and almost like circular, I guess, picture of really what it is that makes you incredibly different. It's the stuff that is going to enable you to move from being invisible to visible, from playing small to playing big, from feeling like an imposter to feeling like you freaking own this space and that you are incredibly well qualified, you're incredibly well positioned to be able to talk about the stuff that you want to be able to talk about. It's going to provide you with the evidence that you have got enough, that you do know enough in order to start building audience, to be able to start connecting with people, and to be able to start adding real value out there into the marketplace and connect with your audience, right? So goodbye imposter syndrome and hello confidence, okay? So that's really the big thing that I wanted to talk with you about today, is to give you some tools to be able to support you in your mission of becoming more visible, to support you in your mission from going from dreamer, that you know what, this could be really great to go and do, to shift you to being a rock star, to then move you to becoming a real icon in your industry, for your audience, for your business, for your organization, to really freaking embrace who you are and provide you with the confidence to just get out there, to help some people and to make a really big freaking impact in the world, in your way. All right. So my name is Nicola. Thank you for coming and hanging out with me today. If you need a copy of Visible, I'll put the link in here later and you can go buy yourself one. I'll send it out to you, and that would be really amazing. Next week on this show, we are going to be talking about them. We're going to be talking about your audience. So today has been very much about you. Yeah. Next week, we are going to talk about them, your audience, how to find them online, how to talk to them online, because it's really critical that we know them intimately, that we know them better than how they know themselves. Because if you are now going like, okay, great, I've got this really big message to share and I've got the confidence and I'm no longer feeling like an imposter, we can't just kind of go and verbal vomit all over social media or type vomit all over social media, because it's not going to be impactful. We need your message, your language, your words, your videos, your content to land on the right people, so that they can learn to get to know you, get to like you, and learn how to trust you. So that's what we're going to be talking about next week. If you have any questions, please let me know. Most importantly though, get out there and help some people, get visible, and go change the world, your world that we live in. Take care everyone. I'll talk to you later on. Bye.